7 o'clock. This is the July 20th meeting of the Concord City Planning Board. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Chairman Woodfin.
Here.
Councillor Pierce.
Here.
Member Rosenberger.
Here.
Member Smithmeyer.
Here.
Member Hicks.
Here.
Member Savage.
Here.
Member Santa Cruz.
Here.
Member Fox.
Here.
Okay, first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the June 15th meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes as submitted?
So approved? Or
So
so
moved.
moved?
I
Get
knew what
ahead of
you meant.
myself.
I knew what you meant.
Moving this along.
You've been away for a while.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a warm night.
Haven't been here in a month.
How about a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Agenda overview. We will be hearing everything on the agenda tonight, so if you're here for anything at all or just the nice entertainment and the cool weather, you're here for the night, we will hear everything. So we'll move right into determination of completeness, item 5A, if we could read that into the record.
Wilcox and Barton, on behalf of NHT 2022 LLC, request major site plan approval for modifications to an existing parking lot at 81 Hall Street in the Opportunity Corridor Performance District. Staff recommends the application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and set the public hearing for August 17th.
Okay, so staff has determined the application complete, not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and set the public hearing for August 17th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item 5B, if we could read that into the record.
Calapo Realty Trust LLC requests major site plan approval and minor subdivision approval for an age-restricted residential development consisting of attached condominium units along with a conditional use permit for disturbance to a wetland buffer at 61 Borough Road in the RS and RM districts. The applicant has requested that this be postponed to the August 17th Planning Board meeting, so staff recommends that the board make a motion to postpone to August 17th.
Okay, we've got a recommendation that, no determination of completeness on this then, right? So just a motion
Correct.
to, so we'll
Postpone.
make a motion to postpone this to the August 17th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
This motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, that brings us on to our design review by consent, item 6 on the agenda. So for those of you in the audience, applications by consent means that we have reviewed all the applications that fall under 6A through 6H on our agenda tonight. Yeah, would anybody in the board like to pull any of those items off the consent agenda? No? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about any of these applications?
I'm accusing myself.
Okay, for the note, for the record, Teresa Rosenberger recusing herself from voting on this item. Would someone like to make a motion to grant approval with ADR recommendations for items 6A through 6H?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries and moves us on to our public hearing section of the evening. Design review applications, item 7A. If we could read that into the record.
Cheshire Builders, on behalf of the Caleb Group, requests ADR approval for the installation of a non-illuminated freestanding sign at 33 to 35 Canal Street in the Opportunity Corridor Performance District. It's a sign application that was previously, had been installed prior to approval. ADR had recommendations on the installed sign that Caleb Group needed to address. Apparently they have gone back to ADR, and ADR has no further issues with the sign. And so staff recommends that it be removed from the table, close the public hearing, and motion to approve subject to ADR recommendations.
Okay, so for the record, we need a motion to remove it from the table?
Yes.
Okay, so do we have a motion to remove it from the table?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We will close the public hearing unless anyone here has a question about the sign. We'll close the public hearing and we'll make a motion, if someone can make a motion to approve the sign as submitted with ADR's blessing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. It brings us on to item 8 in our agenda, site plan subdivisions and conditional use permit applications. If we could read item 8A into the record.
Stantec Consulting Services, on behalf of Eversource Energy, requests a conditional use permit for disturbance to a wetland buffer for replacement of transmission poles for property between Shaker Road and Regional Drive and on either side of Garvin's Falls Road in the RO Open Space, RM Medium Density Residential, GWP Gateway Performance, and IN Industrial Districts. Staff recommends that the application be determined complete. Is this a DRI?
No.
Not a DRI. And to open the public hearing, we may have an update.
Okay, so we've got a determination of completeness component. It is not a development of regional impact. Someone like to make a motion to find the application complete and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Public hearing's open. Is the applicant here? Get a quick staff update on this one?
Sure. So the applicant is requesting 3 conditional use permits, one of which is for disturbance to wetland buffers, one to disturbance to buffers in the shoreline protection district, and the other is to allow for the construction of essential public utilities within the open space and medium density residential districts. The disturbances are primarily associated with access roads and construction pads for the replacement of structures. I believe they're all wood right now. They're going to steel due to damage from wear, tear, woodpeckers as well. So this is just a structure replacement project, and the CUPs are basically in response to any necessary disturbances associated with the change out of the structures.
So the disturbances will be from equipment that needs to be brought in to repair them or replace them?
And restoration is accounted for as well.
Okay. Are there new poles going in? So metal poles?
Metal poles, yeah, direct replacements.
Metal poles going in. So I did have a question on height and visibility. I know that was a question that I got from a gentleman in an email asking me about the height. So if you can just give us a quick rundown on height changes.
Sure, yeah, the height changes range from 1/2 foot to 9 feet at the most between the old and the new structures.
Okay. So not 100 feet tall.
Not a significant change, no.
Okay. Anything else from staff?
Nope.
Any questions from the board? Yeah.
The thing
Jeff?
I have is when you do the cut on Shaker Road, you might have to clear a little bit of vegetation. That's a pretty kind of tight corner coming through there. Just make sure the sight distance for vehicles coming out. Vehicles. I know you'll have construction signing and whatnot,
Yep.
but it's pretty close vegetation right up to the road. So.
Yeah, as part of our state permits, we're getting some vegetation maintenance permits as well, so they'll be addressing that, yeah. Great.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So in your packets, we've got 2.1, which is to grant the following conditional use permits in the existing utility right-of-way for Eversource C-189 and M-108 structure replacement project located between Shaker Road and either side of Garvin's Falls Road, subject to the following subsequent conditions noted below. That's CUP in accordance with Article 2843D for disturbance of wetland buffers, CUP 2833F for disturbance of buffers in the shoreline protection district, and a CUP in accordance with Article 282-4C, uses permitted by CUP to allow for the construction of essential public utilities within the open space and medium residential districts. In the granting of the conditional use permits, we've also got some subsequent conditions that are outlined in subsequent conditions 1 through 4. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the following conditional use permits and the subsequent with the subsequent conditions as outlined?
Move accept the recommendation and grant the following CUP as outlined.
All right. I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. You're all set. All right, moves us on to item 8B in our, 8B in our agenda. If we could read that into the record.
Dundee Investment Associates LLC requested amendment to a major site plan approval for modification of a previously approved plan, including addition of parking spaces, changes to phasing, and revised building footprints at 285 Loudon Road in the Gateway Performance District.
All right, could we get a staff update on this?
Sure, it's pretty much as the title says. They were previously approved for the entire development. Aldi was the first phase. They've come back with a change of use to include a restaurant, so they had to increase the number of parking spaces. So they're adding additional parking and reconfiguring the building, and that's the purpose of this amendment before you tonight.
Okay, so it is we have a determination of completeness component, not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. The public hearing's open. Welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jeff Merritt. I'm an engineer with Granite Engineering. We're the civil site engineers for the project. I have a number of people here with me this evening. To my right, the board's left, is Scott Shust with JTS Architects. He's the project architect. Andrew Goodman next from GMX Real Estate Group. He is the applicant. And Rick DeMonte from DeMonte Investment Associates. He is the owner of the property. So what we have for the board this evening is a amendment to what was a approved multi-phase major site plan. I know the board knows where this is. This is the same property that Aldi's is on, Aldi's grocery store. The property is located at 285 Loudon Road. Originally, the project was approved back in 2017, and there were 3 phases. First phase was the construction of Aldi's, and then all the infrastructure that surrounds Aldi's and throughout the property there. That, as you know, has been completed. Aldi's has been in operation for a number of years now. The second phase of the project was identified as a restaurant with a drive-through and the interior of the site. And then the third phase was actually a small retail, 6,000 square foot plus or minus, building in the southwest corner of the property. Both phase 2 and 3 have yet to be constructed. Again, all the infrastructure was built during phase 1, so if you go out there, you'll see pad sites, and then the utilities were stubbed to those, but those 2 buildings have not been constructed yet. The reason we're here tonight is that we're proposing some minor amendments to the originally designed plans. What was approved as the third phase of the project, that retail building, we'd like to change that to actually the second phase of the building and then make the restaurant with the drive-through the third phase. We're swapping phases there. The retail building is what we're focusing on tonight. We've redesigned that slightly. The building square footage is being reduced by about 100 square feet. It's roughly the same area, but it's just slightly less. We're also proposing to convert a portion of that building to a restaurant use as opposed to all retail. It was originally permitted as full retail, and then we're proposing to convert about 1,600 square feet of that for a small restaurant, cafe or something like that. Some of the other changes that are proposed on the plan include a little bit of extra parking. Staff mentioned that since we're changing this use, a little bit of the building to restaurant, it affects the parking calculation, so there's an additional 6 spaces striped out on the plan, most notably to the west of the retail building. And then you'll notice a small change to what will be the third phase, the larger restaurant with the drive-through. In order to make the parking calcs work, we had to reduce the square footage of that building slightly. That's being reduced by 300 square feet, and that makes the parking ratios work appropriately. Other than that, everything else stays the same. Traffic circulation throughout the site and entrance to the site from Loudon Road remains the same. There's no changes to the curb cuts out there. We're adding a little bit of additional site lighting. There's 1 new pole-mounted light west of the, or southwest of the retail building to light that new parking area, and then some wall sconces on the new building. Everything's full cutoff fixtures, similar to what's out there today. So the build out of the project included, the build out of the first phase of the project included installation of the majority of the landscaping that was designed for the project. Since we are working in this phase, there are areas that we have to impact some plants that were already planted. So we do have a planting plan. If you look at the staff report, you'll see there's some minor comments relative to landscaping. We acknowledge those. Those came not only from staff, but from ADRC. So we'll make those changes. It's pretty minor, and we're happy to do that. Additionally, if you read staff report, there was mention of some trees that had died along the buffer between Old Loudon Road and the property. And so those, along with some damage to the fence, would be fixed as well. So there's some maintenance items that'll be taken care of as part of this as well. We did get engineering comments. We'll review those with the engineering department. Our initial review of them, there's no issue there. We think we can work through those. And then we did go before the ADRC to show them the proposed new building. Scott Shust is here this evening, and he'll show you the building that was proposed, that it was well received, we think, and we just had some minor changes that the board requested. Scott, do you want to tell them about the building?
Sure. So you're basically looking at standard building materials. We've got stone, brick, cement board, ephes, and hardy panel. When we met with the design review, there was one physical change that they wanted done to the building, and that was this area that I'm circling on the screen right now. What our intention is to continue this cement board that goes over to this column here, just to make it seem like what this end user is will encompass that whole section. Outside of that, it's just a typical multi-tenant building. The end cap tenant is lined up. Did I mention the name? It's a Sleep Number, which is where the cement board comes from. It's their prototypical element that they use. So that's how we shape the building there.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's all we have at the moment. We'd be happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Questions? Suzanne?
Yeah, the area that the staff had identified as a 3-foot wide bed, what is directly to the left? It can't be a parking space.
It is a parking space, and what the suggestion was is that instead of planting a tree in that location, that there would be shrubs as opposed to a tree.
Okay, well, the trees are what we really need in a parking lot, not shrubs. Especially, you would know that after today. But now it looks like there's a sidewalk, and then it curves. Is that my imagination?
So there's a sidewalk which leads from Loudon Road.
No, this is right in your site.
Right in
Is
through-
that the 2-foot?
The landscape plan has an extra line in it, so if you're looking at the landscape plan, you may not be seeing what the actual.
Well, that's the problem.
Let me
Yeah.
zoom
Blame
in
me
on
for
the
that.
screen
Yeah.
for you.
So maybe they don't need that parking space, or do they need that?
They need
parking
it.
space?
You need it.
So anyway, I wouldn't use grasses as a substitute for a tree. I was glad that the staff noticed, because I've noticed that a lot of the plants have died. They've never survived. They've been dead for a long time. So those all have to be replaced. I don't think it makes any sense to have an evergreen in the parking lot because it doesn't have a canopy. It's just a cone shape. So I would put a substantial shade tree, and your shade tree is identified as a 10 to 15 foot wide shade tree, which is really not a shade tree. You want something that's really gonna provide shade, especially if you've got limited areas to plant. So I'm not sure what you do about that extra tree. It's really the parking lots that need it, and to clean up the areas that you've got a lot of dead and, plant material that has just never taken off, and it's always been struggling.
Yeah, and staff did mention that, and we're, part of the plan will be to replace whatever hasn't made it. That's been acknowledged. And in terms of the species, I don't disagree with you. We can take another look at that. We've told staff that. We're happy to work that out, take that comment with you. Can substitute grasses for something different than shrubs, and we can work on shade trees with.
Shade trees, and stone bark mulch, stone beds are not conducive to the health of any plant material, period.
We're happy to work with.
Yeah, I would do something
Yep.
because I believe that you'll probably end up putting plastic underneath the stone, which is really not good for plants because they cannot get water. So I would rethink. I don't think we really encourage stone as a mulch, period.
We'll relay that to the LA, and again, we'll work with staff. We don't have any objection to changing the landscaping to meet the city's preference, that's for sure.
And maybe there's another spot. Oh, there's actually, isn't there a ton of space on the north side that you could?
I think I'd make it a recommendation to add more trees to
Oh,
the
yeah,
north
yeah,
side of
yeah,
the building.
yeah. And don't put I would not put an evergreen in the parking lot.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Jeff?
On the idea of trying to get more space in that area, you have 15 feet in between your two handicap spaces. Is there any way of stealing a couple feet there and being able to provide more in that landscaped area by shifting parking?
Normally, yes, but I think that's a city code. Heather, maybe you can back us up on that. The
Have to
original,
check that out.
the original plan, fire department had asked for that wide space for access to the front of the building. And you'll see one, I think it's on all the buildings. But put it this way, if there was no objection at the city level to that, we could narrow that up to the 8-foot gore, which is
Or even
required.
just 2 or 3 feet and still provide a 12-foot wide path in if the
The
fire
only
department
reason
would be
that is,
acceptable.
yeah, the only reason that that's the width it is because of the prior approval and the request. But if things have changed and nobody is going to require that, we can shrink that down to a normal size, and that would free up some space to do landscaping in that northeastern island. So we'd take a look at that, and as long as
We can look
nobody
into that.
objects.
You know what?
We can look into that.
Okay.
And Mike, can I have one more comment? On your plant list, you don't list the trees as having a caliper, you list them by height. So you're listing a tree that you consider a shade tree. You're gonna plant an installed height of 4 to 6 feet, 4 to 5 feet. So that's not how a tree is sized. You use caliper. So you should probably talk to your LA about that too.
We'll talk to the LA about that. Very good.
So just remember, as part of approvals with these, you guys are responsible for the trees. So if code went out there and saw all the trees dead, they'd make you replace them without coming back to the planning board.
Yes, I think,
Yeah.
I think the owner knows that.
As background.
Not
on
even, I mean, they should have done it already.
Well, we knew this was coming, so
Yes.
it was sort of
Okay,
like,
okay.
we
Yeah,
had the CO to hold them up, at least we had some meat behind
Yes, yeah,
being
yeah.
able to force them to do
Okay.
it.
Yeah, and at as background on the site, we have sprinklers installed on our 2 sites, which are the retail building and the Cumming restaurant. Aldi did not put in sprinklers. Obviously, it's not required, so they didn't do it. So we have no place to control our sprinklers from, so we got no water out there. So
There you go.
obviously,
That'll kill them.
Well-
that's not good all the time.
Although, by Dick's, there's a beautiful evergreen screen that's not irrigated.
And it's working.
Oh, my God, it's,
Maybe, I mean,
yeah.
well, once we have this building installed, we'll have the
Water.
sprinklers.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
okay.
it-
So, yeah.
I don't think that's why they failed, but, because, I mean, it happens every day. There are a lot of trees in the city that aren't irrigated and they survive.
Okay, other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Nope. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. So in your packet, members of the board, we have 3.2, grant amendment to the major site plan approval for the proposed revision to the building and parking at 285 Loudon Road and revised phasing for the development, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions outlined below, and those are in precedent conditions 1, 2, and 3, subsequent conditions 1 through 4.
You missed 3.1.
Sorry, Rich.
Cancel all that. So we'll go back to 3.1, which is to grant ADR approval for the proposed site plan amendment to the building architecture, site layout, and site landscape with the following conditions. The planting list must be aligned with the landscape plan and comply with the regulations and staff recommendations. The south building elevation and western storefront be a continuum of the facial level, and the white ephes be darkened to show that part of the building is associated with the largest tenant. In addition, material samples to be provided to staff for review prior to the issuance of the building permit. I'll good with that?
I do have the samples here. Who can I give those?
You can give them right over to Beth, and she would love to have them.
Don't doubt it.
She lives
She
from
gives
all the way
them-
from
She
Chicago.
gives them to us as Christmas presents, so it'll be a surprise to us as well.
Bonus if I can use them as a coaster.
Yeah.
Okay,
Pulled his shoulder
so
out of his socket carrying him here.
would someone like to make a motion to grant ADR approval as so eloquently outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 3.2 is to grant the amendment to the major site plan for the proposed revision to the building and parking at 285 Loudon Road and revised phasing of the development as subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions as outlined in precedent conditions 1, 2, and 3 and subsequent conditions 1 through 4. Would someone like to make a motion to grant amendment to the major site plan as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Do we
Any
need
other
to just
points?
add the,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, regarding the capability to narrow the width of the 15-foot handicap accessible island area to take advantage of additional space for the islands on either end.
Subject to fire department.
right?
Subject to the
Fire
fire
department.
department if allowed by code, yep. Okay. All right, would someone like to make a motion to grant that amendment to the major site plan as outlined with those notes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, I asked for a motion and got a second twice on that. Asked for discussion. Okay, you're all set. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys didn't catch that one. Where were you on that? You could have told me I didn't already ask for a motion in a second.
I was waiting
All
to see
right.
if you were gonna bring that up.
Let's bring item 8C into the agenda if we could.
P&M Realty of Concord requests an amendment to a major site plan approval to add 7 units to a previously approved site plan for a total of 199 residential units as part of Phase 4 of the rail yard mixed-use development off Langdon Avenue.
Okay, if we could get a staff update on this?
Sorry, I'm just moving my
Sorry.
samples
Actually,
around.
let me take this first as a determination of completeness.
Yes,
And
and
there's
then
not a development
no
of
DRI.
regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion
Vote.
to determine the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and open the public hearing? I think I had a motion from Mr. Hicks for that, and a second from Earl Pierce. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Public hearing is open. Now we'll get a quick staff update on this.
Very quick update. This is another amendment. They are, due to reasons I'm sure they will explain to you, they are adding additional units to one of the buildings that are in a future phase, not the ones that are currently under construction. So it increases the size of the building, and they have to build additional parking spaces and reconfigure some sidewalks within the development, but staff doesn't have any concerns or issues with
Okay.
this.
All right. Welcome back to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Thank you. Good evening, Chris Netto with Novus Group.
Mark Palat with Dakota Partners.
Jeremy Vieira with Dakota Partners as well.
Well, welcome back to the table.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so we have the site plan up here. The project is divided into 5 different phases. The first 2 phases of the project are, if you're looking at the plan, top of the plan is South Main Street, bottom is the railroad. So the first phase is 1, 2, 3 buildings in the clubhouse. That's phase 1 and phase 2. And then phase 3 and 4 are these 3 buildings. And then phase 5 is the commercial development, the commercial buildings. So happy to report phase 1 and 2 has broken ground this week. So those are under construction, hope to be done by late next year, 2023. So phases 3 and 4, again, are, originally there were a 48 unit building, a 36 and a 12. And what we're here for tonight is an amendment to change the 48 unit building to a 55 unit building, so it's adding 7 units. The building just got a little bit larger, a little bit longer, so we had to shift some sidewalks around, and we added 14 parking spaces. A combination of some parking out here and just reorganizing the striping out in front of that building. And that's really it. I'll let Mark and Jeremy explain why we're going from 48 to 55 units.
Perfect.
Thank you. So last year, as you know, we went in for tax credits for this project, and we were awarded tax credits for the first two phases. Come this August, we'll be applying for the 9% and 4% tax credits. But over the course of the year, the state changed their requirements. They wanted us to add another 7 units to this 48-unit building, which we went and applied for a waiver to state because of that, because we already had a master plan. We already went through here, we got it fully approved, and we thought it wasn't really necessary in the sense to add these additional 7. We were denied at the end of the day, so hence we're here with this.
Just out of curiosity, what was the logic for denial? I mean, why were they pressing because of the amount of revenue that it was going to generate with the additional units, or something silly? Or you don't have to tell me. I'm just wondering why.
It's a very good question, Jeremy. Do you have any? Do you know why they?
No, it really was. They applied it across the board to anyone going for application. So it was us and anybody else going in for applications. At the state level, a big part of that is they just want more units of housing. You know, it's a bit of a problem, and the more housing they could get, the better. So that's sort of some of the logic behind it.
Okay.
And we've already master planned it. We already got it approved for the 4 phases, which the state looks for multiple phase type projects and large projects like this. So we figured, you know, why couldn't we get a waiver? Because we've already had it planned, and I know it met everyone's approval beforehand. So it was denied. So we added the 7 units, which is a very odd number. We expect to be 6 or 8, so it made it a little difficult for us, but we made it work out. Like Chris said, we adjusted the sidewalk over a little bit. We even added additional trees at the end because the 48 unit, which is now 55, and the 36 unit were a little bit closer. So we tried to screen them a little bit more. And really, that was about it. Not much more than that.
Okay.
So we're just looking for a site plan amendment and an amendment to the conditional use permit.
Okay. Questions? Councilor Pierce.
I was confused going through this regarding the parking. So, correct me if I'm wrong, you want to add, not you want to, but your plan is to add 7 more units, but you want to reduce the number of parking spots?
Nope, we're actually adding, we're
Okay.
adding 14 more parking spaces to
Correct.
accommodate the 7 units. But we still need an amendment to our conditional use permit because we are providing less parking spaces than required under the ordinance.
So, if to follow up?
Yes.
So that's the 310 spaces
Right.
that we're talking about, which really comes out to 1.55 spaces per unit,
That's right.
when 1.75 spaces per unit is equal to the 348 spaces that you originally had. Right, so what's the rationale? I'm worried about, is this gonna push resident and guest parking into the neighborhood or anything like that? What's the rationale behind reducing the number of spaces per unit?
Yep, understood. So I think that one of the numbers you stated there was not correct. I think
Okay.
we're asking for 314 spaces where 410 is required.
Gotcha.
We're not making it worse with this amendment. We're actually providing the full 2 spaces per unit for these 7 units. But the rationale is, and I'll let-
Traditionally, we've found throughout the projects that we've done throughout this state as well as other states, we're running about 1.2 to 1.5 spaces. So, and a lot of towns and cities have like 2 spaces per unit, which ended up being way more than was necessary at the end of the day, which increased more asphalt, more pervious surfaces. So it really, we've just found over the time in all the projects, 1.2 to 1.5 is the sweet spot.
If this question for
Yes.
staff, what do we require?
2.
So,
Okay.
well, it's district driven too. So remember the
Right.
Main Street project when we did the employment security building, they didn't need any
Right.
because it was on Main Street in the district, and they're saying that there was even less, I think, than that.
Yeah.
For the number of cars per unit is what was needed. So,
Yeah, they have 64 units and 59 parking spaces or something like that, yeah.
I would just mention that we had a long conversation about this initially, and
Yes.
they provided the rationale for it initially, so
Yep.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that is
Thank you.
correct.
yes, yeah, we did. Other questions from the board? Suzanne?
I'll just reiterate, it's really important to have the shade trees
Yes.
in the parking, and there are trees that are 15 to 20 feet, and that's not a shade tree. I mean, we really need to make sure that they use like the large trees and concentrate on natives and not ornamentals. And the plant list is very cumbersome to review because everything's mixed in. It'd be nice if they could do trees, evergreens, deciduous, and shrubs, so that you can, it just takes forever to kind of filter through with all the symbols, but it's just really important for the parking lots to have the shade trees. I think that's in our word.
Yep. Okay, other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? God, you guys lucked out.
It wasn't like last time.
Yeah.
right.
You guys lucked out. So we will close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So in our packets, and again, noting the trees, and I've come a new appreciation of making sure that those trees are of caliber, and I'm wondering if we might be able to make some changes in the language that we give out to people to say.
Oh, no, it's there.
It is there.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, it's an industry standard.
Caliber, okay.
Yeah, caliber.
Okay, so in your packet, is this 4.1, right? Right in the spot here. Yeah, so we've got 4.1 in your packet is to grant amendment to the conditional use permit in accordance with section 28711B, construction of fewer parking spaces of the zoning ordinance to construct 314 spaces where 410 are required. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 4.2, grant ADR approval for the amendment of Building G at 28 Langdon Avenue and associated site improvements. Someone like to make a motion to grant ADR approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 4.3 is to grant the amendment to the comprehensive development plan for the amendment to Building G at 28 Langdon Avenue and associated site improvements. Someone like to make a motion to grant that amendment as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. No discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And 4.4 is to grant the amendment to the major site plan approval for the addition of 7 units at 28 Langdon Avenue and a related site improvement subject to the following precedent conditions, which are outlined in precedent conditions 1, 2, and 3, and subsequent condition 1. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that major site plan approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You guys are all set. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Sure we'll see you again soon. Yeah, maybe not soon.
Maybe not.
Maybe not soon.
Hopefully
Maybe later. Okay, so that brings us on to item 8D on our agenda. If we could read item 8D into the agenda, into the record.
Chairman,
Whoops.
excuse me, I just have to recuse.
Okay,
I didn't
thank
know
you.
the
For the
process
record,
of-
Amanda Savage recusing herself on 8D. Hang around for the exciting stuff afterwards, though.
Yeah, you're not dismissed from the meeting. Catch Neighborhood Housing requests major site plan approval to construct a 3-story multifamily building consisting of 48 units and a conditional use permit to not provide a commercial use at 303 Sheep Davis Road in the Gateway Performance District. This application was previously determined complete and their comprehensive development plan was approved. And it was determined not a development of regional impact. Staff recommends you open the public hearing.
Okay, so we've got determination completeness component was completed, no development of regional impact. We need a motion to?
You already had
I had a motion, so we're good to go. So let's get a quick staff update if we can on this.
Sure. So as stated, last month, the comprehensive development plan was approved. There's been very minor changes as a result of a couple of staff comments. Some of the parking was beyond 150 feet from the entrance, which is in opposition to our zoning ordinance. So some parking has shifted around. The location of the dumpster pads has been changed. And the applicant has requested a conditional use permit to defer 12 spaces, similar conversation to what we just had with the previous applicant. So the parking rates are still within a comfort zone, so staff is supportive of that. And in response to architecture design review, some of the materials have shifted slightly on the building architecture, and ADR did have a request that you'll notice in your packet where the dumpster pads are basically on the southern end of the building. That access does kind of curve in towards the building. They had requested that that be straightened simply to provide some additional separation between the dumpster pads and the windows of the adjacent units. But aside from that, the applicant has addressed the majority of the questions. Still outstanding is the sidewalk, but that is more of a discussion with DOT, given this is state right-of-way, New Hampshire 106. So the question still remains, will this sidewalk be within the right-of-way, or will it be on private property? And that will be fleshed out when I believe the applicant applies for the driveway permit and DOT starts getting involved, but we are comfortable recommending conditional approval subject to those ongoing conversations.
Sorry, my plans are downloading here. I had them at my house, but for some reason they're not. I can't see some of these plans. They're just grayed out. It's probably because you submitted these gigantic, gigantic files, 25 megabytes apiece. Okay, so, sorry. Welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Thank you. Chris Netta with Novus Group.
Alexandria Panagiatakis from Catch.
Great. Well, welcome back. And tell us a little bit about your project. Now, we got a fairly robust view of the project during the comprehensive development plan review when you were here before. Was it last month?
It was, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more if you can, and we'll go from there.
So the project is at 303 Sheep Davis Road, which is directly across the street from Sam's Club. And to orient you on the plan up here, Route 106 or Sheep Davis Road is the bottom of the plan. Driveway exactly opposite of Sam's Club driveway. The property's about 6.3 acres, and there's a brook stream that runs along the boundary of the property between Walmart and the site. The site's very, very well wooded. We were actually out there yesterday, and it's very screened from 106 and from the abutting property. So it's a nice little secluded spot. It's pretty heavily forested. Catch is proposing to do 48 units of housing in a three-story building, single three-story building for 48 units. And we're proposing 84 parking spaces. Again, we're asking for a conditional use to build fewer parking spaces, 84 where 96 is required. Site's on water and sewer. The driveway will be shared. It's actually shared now with the abutting, it's a heavy equipment rental place. And we're also asking for a conditional use permit to not require the 25% commercial space. Because this is with a Gateway Performance District, the ordinance requires that at least 25% of a mixed-use development have commercial space within it. We've pretty well maxed it out because of the steep slopes and the wetland setbacks and the stream setback. We've maxed it out with the 48 units of residential, so we're asking for that conditional use permit to not require the 25% commercial space. And then just taking a peek at the building, again, three-story, single building, flat roof. This went through ADR on July 5th and for the second time. And I think the only comments were relative to trees, I think. Believe it or not. They asked us to consider something other than elm trees, I believe.
Oh, my
was the
goodness,
comment.
yeah. The planting plan's not here.
Yeah, I have the planting plan in our set, so I can call
For
that
some
up.
reason, I didn't see it pop up. But yeah,
You
that's,
could sell some trees to Mr. DeMonte across Loudon Road. He'd be appreciative.
Oh, skipped it. So here we go.
The plan schedule is included on sheet 9 of the packet.
oh,
Left-hand corner,
I didn't
bottom
see it.
left-hand corner.
Did you see that?
That's not it.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
Okay.
It says
So-
Oh,
L10
yeah.
at the bottom.
Oh, no, I remember seeing it. Yeah, the elms are a bad idea.
So you're gonna leave the screening along, along Sheep Davis Road, Chris?
Yeah, as much as we can. You know, there's actually quite a bank. If you look, the site is quite a bit higher than Sheep Davis Road, so the banking provides a really good screen as well. We do have to cut the trees just to get the banking cut back to where it needs to be, but I think that we're proposing 4 shade trees along there, but I think the banking provides a pretty good screen as well.
Okay. And are you building the sidewalk?
So the sidewalk is, we have added it to the site plan. We're showing it in the right of way, so it's a sidewalk to nowhere. Basically stops on either end of the frontage. We still need to submit our DOT driveway application, and part of that's gonna be the discussion of where that sidewalk goes. We suspect perhaps DOT may not want it in their right of way, in which case we'd have to put it on the catch site itself, so. But we are showing it in the right of way right now, until we have further conversation with DOT.
Okay, and from an orientation perspective, I think I know the answer to this, but there's no way to walk from anywhere on this property to Walmart.
There are some trails out back. There is actually the ability to cross the stream, but I guess we didn't really want to encourage that, because it comes into the back loading
No,
area. of
I
Walmart.
was just wondering if that, if, you don't want people to do
No.
that, so.
No, I think there's a small homeless population on the property, believe it or not, and I think they've created some trails where they've walked back and forth, but we do not want to encourage people walking to the back of Walmart.
I have an open conversation with Concord Transit to add a bus stop to our development.
You anticipated Mr. Santa Cruz's question even before he could ask it, so good for
Yes.
you.
So I've worked with that, knowing that there isn't really a way to walk to
Yeah.
anywhere, so we've asked.
So how does that screw up the sidewalk, or would it be off of would it be off of Sheep Davis Road, 106, Sheep Davis Road? Would you bounce it in?
I would hope that we could probably get the bus into that large parking area to pick them up in the parking area.
Oh,
And
okay.
then swing around, because they'd have to go back to, I would think they would go back to Walmart.
Okay.
And then they turn in Walmart and come out Loudon Road. So they come up Sheep Davis now.
So is this intersection begging for a stoplight or a light? Or will it be begging for one? Mr. Santa Cruz, again, I'm stealing his thunder, but
No, you're
I'm
not.
anticipating the question, or I've been up there pulling out of the Sam's Club
Yeah,
enough
so-
times to know that it's a tough pull.
Yeah, no question, and we actually, the VHB, who's the city's consultant, actually did the traffic study and identified that there is a problem with Sam's Club, particularly with the left turns out, and that, and Sam, I don't know if you want to add to this, or whether there's going to be a continued conversation or not with DOT about that.
Sure. So basically, the traffic study stated that, yes, there's a problem, but it's not because of this development. It exists simply because of the volumes on Sheep Davis at this time. This site has a negligible impact, and it wouldn't warrant any sort of signal at that location. You can't add a crosswalk, even though conveniently located across from Sam's Club. You just can't add a crosswalk to a 40-mile-an-hour plus roadway. It's just not safe, and you would have to signalize it, and again, it just doesn't meet warrants. So the study did not make any recommendation in terms of off-site improvements relative to the intersection.
Okay. Okay, questions from the board?
Yeah, aren't there opportunities to have not a signal, but where they have a crosswalk and then they've got the lights that kind of come on, and they, not for that speed, not for that?
There is, but flashing lights and paint don't protect pedestrians at 40-mile-an-hour traffic. So.
I mean, you still have to look both ways, but
It's
it'd be
not
better than
just,
nothing.
it's not just that, but those particular lights you don't put at a driveway. Those tend to be for mid-block crossings,
Okay.
not necessarily at an intersection. That's not how they were designed to be used. So if you were to signalize that, you'd want to put an actual full signal with a crosswalk. If not, you'd want to move the crosswalk like 100 feet down the road and then put it, which kind of takes it down the hill a little bit. from the
Although, I think
Sanders.
it's gonna be something that happens, people are gonna be crossing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I think that this will eventually lead to a broader master planning conversation with DOT about how we want to handle pedestrian and bicycle activity on the corridor. This is something that we're going to continue to see. Clearly, there's the demand for housing, and because this district now allows housing, we will see more of this, and it will force the conversation. And I would like to add one thing relative to if we get to the point where DOT says we can't have the right-of-way or the sidewalk within the right-of-way, and we put it on private property, we will have to require an easement just for public access across that. So that would be a condition of approval that we'll need to add to this report.
Okay, so remind me when we get to that point, okay? Any other questions from the board? Stole all of Jeff's questions, he
No,
can't
you're
ask
stealing
anymore.
it, no.
Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so in your packets, we've got recommendations starting at 4.1, which is to grant ADR approval for the building design, landscaping, and site layout with the recommendation that the dumpster access be straightened rather than curved towards the building to create additional separation between the building and the dumpster area. Someone like to make a motion to grant ADR approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 4.2 is to grant the conditional use permits to Articles 2845E1, mixed use component required in this commercial space. Would someone like to make a motion to grant conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And 4.3 is to grant major site plan approval for a 3-story, 48-unit multifamily building with associated site improvements at 303 Sheep Davis Road in the Gateway Performance District, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions outlined in precedent conditions 1 through 5, subsequent conditions 1, 2, and 3, and 4, which is?
If the sidewalk is determined to need to be constructed on private property, a public access easement will need to be granted to the city.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to grant that major site plan approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Thank you very much. Good luck.
I'll go get Amanda.
And that brings us to other business,
Whoa.
right?
Yeah, it certainly does.
Wow, other business. So can someone welcome Amanda back to the table so we can wrangle her into ADR or Heritage Commission?
Should have done that while she was out
You
there.
should have left her out there and then just.
I should have been so
Congratulations.
efficient.
Hey, can one of you guys ask these ladies if
You're
they
both
have
on the
anything
Heritage
to
Commission
go?
and an
Two
ADR.
ladies here?
You mean go over there?
What?
You mean go over there? You mean go over
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to just yell out to them. Yeah, could you, Lisa? Okay, so that brings us on to other business, and I did mention Heritage Commission and Architectural Design Review both have open seats on their commissions that need to be filled. They are planning board specific positions, so if anyone would like to know what's going on in the world for Architectural Design Review or for Heritage Commission, which has changed a lot. They've got a lot of new energy going on at Heritage Commission. Things are really kind of percolating along very nicely. Yes.
Can I share?
Sure.
So we've got a bunch of new members. Counselor Kretovic is now the appointed council member, and she's been very active. We finally got the demolition delay ordinance passed. They've been talking about developing like their own, you know how the Preservation Alliance has the 7 to save, like coming up with a 10 to save, a magnificent 10 is what they're calling it. They're sort of planning workshops to get together and brainstorm different ideas to do things, so they're a lot more active now than they've been in the past. And so it's kind of it's a good time to have somebody join to participate and share information about what's going on. Just wanted to share that.
Okay.
And ADR, the ADR member can function as an alternate for, so sometimes we have challenges because our consultants, our ADR members are consultants for, architecture firms, and there may be conflict of interest at times, and it helps to have a planning board member who can function as an alternate, who could sit in when there's quorum issues.
I just need more information, if
Yep.
you don't mind, if I can get an email afterwards.
Yep,
in
that'd be
regards
great.
to times of when these meetings, or when these committees meet.
That'd be
That's a,
great.
that's a
We'll
good
follow up.
point. The Heritage Commission's in the evening.
Yeah, it's a 4 o'clock meeting, 4:30 meeting.
4:30
to
to 5:30, 6
5:30,
usually
yeah.
maybe. And the ADR is during the day. It's like a Tuesday morning, 8:30 to 11:30 kind of thing.
Oh,
Or 10:30 usually. It's not usually quite that long, I don't think.
8:30 to 10 is what the ones I've been involved in. Think about it. We don't want to put you on the spot if anybody else is interested. Think about it, and we will come back to you, or we can get you some additional information.
Or we're gonna put all your names in a hat,
And
and we're just gonna.
force you at some point to do it. You wanted to make a code
Oh, yes.
code update?
In fact, I sent some emails out today. The first draft of the code is posted, and I also scheduled a number of meetings in August for the Phase 2 follow-up of those webinars. That will be again with Lee joining us from Code Studio. We'll do some online webinars. And then the following few weeks, or as long as is needed, will be the presentation of Phase 1 draft. So there'll be a few online sessions, there'll be some in-person sessions in council. I'll be sending out email blasts, and kind of gonna take it as it, see how it goes for those first couple of meetings and see what kind of feedback or questions I get from the public to determine what types of meetings I should have in the future. If anybody knows of anyone who might be interested, like I would like to reach out to the chamber or, any other groups that would be interested in hearing a presentation or having me come and ask questions, be happy to do that. So now is really the big push for getting public feedback and making sure everybody understands what's being proposed. So please come.
You're sending out a schedule on that?
I actually sent it out earlier this evening to the planning board members, but it will be going out as an email blast. It will be going out in social media. It will be posted on the website. It will be posted on the project website. But you personally should have received an email with the schedule earlier this afternoon. Please?
Okay. So, before we adjourn, we do have some
Right.
sad news to share. We are losing a member of the table here with us. This will be Sam's last meeting as a member of staff. He's on to bigger and better things
Well, that's debatable.
in the
In a different state?
in the southern tier of the state. He'll tell you the details if he'd like to, but I just want to recognize we've enjoyed having you, Sam, and it's been a pleasure working with you. So I'll miss you coming down to my office to sign plans incessantly.
You read his contract carefully?
Yeah. I just first I'm hearing of it, so
Maybe he can't
I'm
read it.
horrified. No. Okay, so
Can we also,
yes.
I don't think we've ever formally introduced Jose
I
Lovell,
don't know
who's
that
our
we have.
new
No, you didn't.
engineer on staff, and so I apologize, it's like his third meeting. And this is Jose.
6 months.
We're we're happy to have him, he's wonderful, he's been very
Sitting at the end and
helpful.
nobody even asked me
Please,
anything.
please welcome him.
We'll beat you up
Thank you,
good.
Heather.
Thanks, Jose.
Sure.
Welcome. Okay, with that, if there's nothing else for the board,
There's not.
we will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, roundly seconded. All those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed?
Members opening.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
55 minutes.